All right, so I am Jim Henderson. I'm the Associate Director of Employer Relations here at Virginia Tech. And I lead the Employer Relations team with Donna and with Lisa, and they'll introduce themselves in just a moment. So really, it's our job to help you all be successful. And I think it's more important than ever today, as things are changing, for us to be working together to kind of figure out what are new best practices in a virtual world. And we'll figure that out together. I've been at Virginia Tech now 11 years. Came from private industry where I worked in HR recruiting and other areas for a better part of 10, 15 years. But Lisa, do you want to give a brief introduction? You're muted.
I do that every time. Some of you I know, some of you I don't know, but I'm Lisa Booth. I'm the Employer Relations Industry Manager and part of Jim's team.
And Donna.
Donna Weichel, and I am the Employer Relations Coordinator, and I'm the other third of the team.
And again, as others go through your introductions, just give us your name, your role within your organization, and a little bit about what you do, what your organization does. Michaela.
Hi, my name is Michaela Hall. I work for the USDA Forest Service. We're a land management agency managing 193 million acres of our national forest and grasslands. I'm a regional recruiter. I've been in this role for 2 years now, and I'm responsible for covering 6 states within our southern region.
Excellent, thank you. David.
I'm David Poteet. I'm the president of NewCity. We're a digital agency working doing website design, development, digital strategy, digital marketing, communications. We're headquartered in Blacksburg, but we're about half Blacksburg area and half remote now with 30 employees. I don't lead all of our hiring, but I'm usually involved in the hiring process in various ways and stages. So.
Excellent. Heidi.
Hi, I'm Heidi Stone. I'm the general manager of Mountain Lake Lodge, which is just about 25 minutes away from Virginia Tech. We are where Dirty Dancing was filmed. All the ladies on the call already know that.
Excellent. Chad.
Good morning. My name is Chad Braby. I'm with Ulliman Schutte Construction. Our company is a water infrastructure construction company. We work in the Mid-Atlantic and Midwest. My regional home base here is in Roanoke. I lead recruiting and personnel and training efforts for our company. We're about 400 employees. We recruit at 15 or 20 universities across our geography, and Virginia Tech's our favorite.
Okay, well, that's not a problem. I'll do that. I'm on a Zoom.
Lisa, we can hear you. Samantha, do you go by Sam?
I do. So I set up my Zoom profile right when this whole pandemic started to meet with some of our students at Wake, and I am forever now Sam. No last name, no nothing. So my name is Samantha Gelatt. I do go by Sam a lot. And I work with Sunrise Technologies. We are a Microsoft partner out of Winston-Salem, North Carolina, but we, the majority of our workforce already works remotely. They live all over the continental United States and, work out of their homes when they're not traveling, which they're not doing right now. But I'm the recruiting manager for the organization. I've been there for 5.5 years, and we have been recruiting at Virginia Tech for, I guess this is our 2nd year, so we're excited.
Mandy.
Hi, I'm Mandy Nevius. I work for Keiter. We're a public accounting firm. Our world headquarters are in Richmond, Virginia. It's our only office. I'm a proud Hokie. I've been at Keiter for 20 years this month, and we've been recruiting at Virginia Tech for probably 17 or 18 years. So I've known Lisa and Donna for a long time and met Jim a while ago as well. And we are experiencing some interesting challenges as we have allowed remote work, and have had it before all this, but then we went to everybody being remote. So interested to learn from all of us.
And Corbyn.
Hey everybody, I'm Corbyn Hale. I work with Mandy. Specifically, my role is the recruiting coordinator. So I've been working with a lot of the on-campus recruiting, kind of following Mandy's footsteps, working with our interns as well, an externship program.
Excellent. Wynne.
Hi, I'm Wynne Reece. I work at Captech. We're an IT management consulting firm. I'm based out of Richmond, and we do have companies or offices throughout the country, but I oversee our college recruiting and internship recruiting.
And last but certainly not least, Zac.
Hey guys, so my name is Zac Colon. I work for Insight Global. So we're a staffing and consulting services company. I actually sit in DC. But we have 58 offices nationwide, and I kind of take care of all of our internal hiring kind of within the surrounding area in Virginia and North Carolina, and North as well. So I've been working in Virginia Tech, I think, for about 6 years, and our company has for about 15, maybe.
Excellent.
So.
Excellent. And you might notice it's a good diversity of different types of organizations on the call, and that's by design. So we do really want to hear from what's happening within your area and your industry. So the first question, and again, we'll probably go through the same format as far as order of who I'll call on. How did the coronavirus affect your full-time hiring for 2020 graduates? Michaela.
So we're still hiring and starting graduates from 2020. Most of those graduates are starting in a virtual capacity, and so they haven't yet reported to their units. Once it becomes safe to do so, especially with those jobs that work outdoors, and so they're able to kind of practice social distancing a lot better than office positions, those students will transition to their units. Most of our office positions will remain virtual as we kind of slowly transition back into the offices. We're hearing now that, you know, we should kind of expect to remain in a virtual capacity for the next few months as we go through our own phases within the agency.
Okay, and again, an additional question on that is, did you have to rescind any offers or reduce any offers for your 2020 graduates? Michaela, did you have to rescind any offers?
So I haven't heard of any rescinded offers, although some of our programs the start dates were pushed back.
Okay, all right. So same questions for David.
Yeah, I mean, we don't do, you know, particular like annual cycle of hiring. It's really just based on positions that open up. But we've had, we haven't changed any of our, you know, hiring practices as a result of COVID. We've got 2 interns from Virginia Tech working for us right now. We kept those internships going. One of them is just graduated. So a lot of times we will do kind of an internship to hire, you know, process. We just transitioned to doing everything remotely with them. Yeah, at the moment it's, you know, right now we haven't seen the direct and immediate impact on our business yet from the pandemic in terms of loss of business, but the higher ed sector, we serve the higher ed sector as our major market. So, so we're being cautious about filling open positions or filling positions at the moment because we don't know what the next 12 months are going to look like. But at the moment we still have active contracts and things are moving, and we're still seeing new activity. So,
okay, Heidi.
Well, our business has nothing remote involved with it whatsoever. You can't run a resort remotely. So we're probably the odd duck on the call. We are open and operating and doing fabulously. Well, I cannot wait to get outside. So our business, where we felt it with Virginia Tech, we don't tend to take but a couple of graduates maybe, and we didn't have any lined up for this year, so we certainly didn't resend any offers. Where it hit us is we do a lot of the 300 and 400 credit hour students, and so they're coming to us like right after finals. So that would have been early May, and that's a good percentage of our summer workforce. So that's really where it hit us, because we're going like gangbusters. I mean, we're going to be at 70% occupancy this weekend, and I need workers, and those would have been my workers, and they've already gone back to Northern Virginia or gone back home, and they terminated their lease and they're not in Blacksburg anymore because of what happened. So it affected us just a little bit differently than really graduates. So now I'm having to find locals who will fill those same positions. So my needs are a little bit different.
Okay. Chad.
Yeah, so our work has basically continued throughout all this, almost full speed ahead. We've sort of fallen into the essential infrastructure category, and so our construction projects and operations have continued throughout this. Our hiring is somewhat cyclical, and most of our hiring of engineering graduates was completed by mid-March. Otherwise, our hiring beyond that has sort of paused until we can resume in-person interviews. We've started resuming in-person interviews at different locations within the past couple of weeks, so we're getting back up to speed with that. And we also do a ton of co-op and internship hiring, and I'll speak to that later. So.
Okay. Yeah, and we'll talk more about in-person interviews versus virtual interviews, because I'll be interested to kind of hear what you're doing with in-person interviews. Sam.
So we are honoring all of our offers that we made. We have a group that always starts in December if they graduate early, or maybe they're a semester late, and then we always have a group that starts in June after either April, May, or June graduation. And we had a whole class of graduates that we decided to honor their start dates, and so they are actually starting next Monday, and they are doing that all virtually. The nature of our business is consulting, and so actually where we've seen a real stretch is having to figure out what to do with them training wise. Usually we send them to like 3 or 4 weeks of Microsoft training. And that can be in various locations. The one for the January group was in Denver. The one before that was in Dallas, and Microsoft has just halted training altogether. So we have had to completely create our own training and figure out how to get them up to, the level that they need to be in order to be effective on these consulting projects. So, that's kind of where we're at with them. And we don't have any internships. We haven't quite cracked that nut yet.
Okay. Mandy.
Sure. So from a full-time perspective, our folks don't start until October, the end of October. So we have not rescinded any offers, and we are still planning for them to come on board. We are not sure. Right now, the plan is that they will come into the office because we are in phase 2 of our reentry. Does that cover all the question?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And Corbyn?
Yeah, nothing to add on that one. That Mandy got that one covered.
Wynne?
Yeah, so we do all of our hiring in the fall. So we extended our offers, had them accept, and we had the December graduates start in January as planned. But the rest were supposed to start, we have 3, we call them boot camp classes. One was in June, one was July, and one was August. We had to push everyone out. At first, we thought we could start maybe half of them in September, and then the other half in like January 2021. But our executive committee just came back like 2 weeks ago and said, we're not comfortable with half in September. Like maybe we have a couple that start in September, but we think the majority of them will be pushed until January and February next year. So we've really had to push them out quite a bit, but we don't plan to rescind any offers.
Excellent. And Zac?
Yeah, so I guess pre-COVID, we never had anybody work remotely. We actually strictly hire at entry level. So we had close to about 400 people that were meant to be starting throughout the summer across all of our offices. And so we've pushed all of their start dates back to July 6th. And we're going to be bringing all these people on virtually. And the whole purpose for the past 2 months has been developing a training process, has been really developing, how are we going to bring these people on virtually? So we just kind of gave ourselves a little bit more time just to kind of have them all start in July. But we did put a pause on hiring just to kind of figure this out, as far as interviews go, just because we didn't want to kind of get ahead of ourselves and then have X amount of people to kind of bring on. So we kind of figured everything out now, and we're going to be starting July 6th with these folks.
So it sounds like, as far as your full-time 2020 graduate recruiting, while you may have had to delay some of your start dates, I didn't hear anyone as far as really being affected to where you were in an overhire and you had to rescind job offers. Is that right? So pretty much all of you, it was kind of business as normal as far as your hiring needs. The challenge may have been either to slow down, but you didn't rescind any offers, but maybe you had to push the dates back. Okay, excellent. And that's kind of what we heard at the Career Center as well. We didn't hear a lot of full-time jobs being rescinded. We did hear a lot of summer internships being impacted. So I do want to talk about that. I know this doesn't affect all of you. So if I call on you and you don't have anything because you don't have a summer internship program, just say pass. But as far as summer internships, we did see a lot of students being impacted or jobs going virtual. So if you had a summer internship that typically was not virtual, that you had to make into a virtual, what I'd be interested to know is how did you do that? And what do you feel like the experience to the student was? And how did you onboard and supervise virtual? Because I think that was some of the challenges perhaps. So again, anything related to summer internships, if it was delayed, canceled, went virtual, or if you don't have one, you don't have one. But we'll start with Michaela.
So similar to our permanent positions, our internships were also moved to virtual capacity where they onboarded from home. We were able to ship their computer and any other materials directly to them. And then our customer help desk helped them get that set up. And as recruiters, we took on some of the supervision for those interns. And so we worked with their supervisors to create work plans and training that they could take in a virtual capacity. And it worked out pretty good. We would get on virtual calls with them just, to have some face-to-face time and kind of help them go through new employee items together. And so many of them are going to start transitioning to their units within the next few weeks. And so we'll hand back over that supervision role. But I think it worked out well. I know that some students are also taking advantage of the schools that aren't gonna go back to in-person classes this fall to kind of stay in the areas of their internships. And instead of moving back to school, they're gonna work part-time to help them gain more hours on that internship, because our internship requires 640 hours before they can convert to a permanent position. So some students are going to be helped in a way to reach those hours more quickly.
Excellent, thank you. David.
Our interns had all already been onboarded when we started working from home. So there wasn't really a process there. And it's really just been kind of orienting them to our kind of established practices for work from home, meetings and use of Slack and various other things. So, all their interactions now with their supervisors are, of course, happening through Zoom, but it's just getting them ready for the virtual workforce. So yeah, we've not really had to adapt anything.
Okay, excellent. Heidi.
Yeah, we didn't terminate the internships because the hotel actually opened May 8th, but all the students that were supposed to pretty much onboard at that time suddenly weren't in Blacksburg anymore, and they terminated their leases and that kind of thing. So it really wasn't us terminating them. We could have certainly still used them and wanted to have them here, but all of the students needed to go back home. So that's what happened with us.
Okay, Chad.
Yeah, we're sort of unique also. You know, our construction job sites continue throughout this. We've got a very robust co-op and internship program. We had co-op engineers on our job sites in March when this started. Most of them remained at the job sites and kept working. But as we transitioned, as we considered the transition to our summer co-ops and internships, we made the decision to honor our offers and had all of our summer co-op and interns continue to job sites. A ton of communication with them, kind of one-on-one communication that we did kind of throughout April. I did a lot of that, just calling all of our, talking with all of our co-ops and interns, and asking if they were comfortable traveling to job sites and continuing the summer co-op and all that. And surprisingly, 24 out of 24 of our students that we had signed up for summer said, "Yep, love to go. Appreciate the opportunity. We'll travel to the job site. We'll take advantage of the internship." And they all started, give or take, mid-May. And so far so good. We've got a lot of safety measures and safety and health measures in place at our job sites, and so far so good. Full speed ahead with summer internships.
Excellent. And Sam, I know you said you don't have a summer internship program. Are you looking to start one?
No, because of the software that we implement and the length of an internship, by the people would be trained to be effective on an implementation team, because we implement large-scale ERP software for retail companies. Their internship would be over, and there would really be nothing that they could put on their resume of value other than basically going through training. So if we can figure that out, we will, but we just haven't to date. So we don't have any internships, and we don't foresee that being something that we can do in the near future.
Okay. Mandy?
I'm going to pass to Corbyn.
Okay.
Thank you. So for our summer internships, we actually break it up into 2 sessions. So when we started planning, as we realized we were moving virtually, and when we did move virtually, we had our spring interns with us. So we were transitioning to Microsoft Teams and utilizing that. So they kind of got a first taste at what that looks like, and we realized that we could still have interns virtually. So we planned for our summer sessions. We break them up, and the first session is students that are 1 year away from their 150 credits to get the CPA, and then the second session is students that are 2 years away. So the first session was going to be 8 weeks, and the second session was going to be 6 weeks. We ended up shortening both of them to a 5-week experience, shortening the work week as well, because we realized with the workload, they might not be as busy. Summers are a little slow for us anyways. So we did move fully remote for them. We ended up shipping them in a package a week beforehand, a laptop, a monitor, some things that they can use to work from home to work effectively. And we're kind of in a short turnaround time for our second session, so we're going to try and make that happen for them as well. But we were able to move remote. It's been going really well so far. We had our first week of new hire orientation, and we were a little worried that it wouldn't work. Technology sometimes can glitch up when we're using Excel, but it went super well. We've gotten really great feedback from the interns that it has been going well for them. They've still been learning, and they were grateful to still get the experience. So I've been happy that we've been able to still employ them and get them some experience. And it is our pipeline for full-time. So we are also very grateful to still see those students, because that's how we recruit for the further years. Mandy, did I miss anything? Is there anything else? Yeah.
Thanks, Corbyn. Wynne?
Sure. So our summer internship program is typically 12 weeks. It would start in mid-May and end in August. So we reduced that to 6 weeks. So they actually start on Monday. So TBD on how it goes. But the advantage is, so we're a consulting firm, so we have our interns work on a mock project. And so we had to change the scope of that project so that they could actually complete it in 6 weeks because they, you know, that usually it takes up that whole 12 weeks and they have tech challenges and all that. So we had to get rid of the tech challenges, consolidate the project a little bit. But fortunately, since we were working remotely, we realized, well, we can do it. We can have the interns do it. So just having us transition, I think, made the planning a little bit easier. All of our interns have coaches. So we have had, you know, more meetings with our coaches, and we're going to increase kind of the number of coach check-ins. We did have to take away their housing stipend because the internship is going to be, you know, completely virtual. We were going to relocate them to Richmond and to Reston, to our offices there. But since we're saying, hey, you can work anywhere, we're taking away that housing stipend. The feedback from everyone was great. Everyone was still really appreciative to have the opportunity. We did have to stop our hiring. We were going to hire 24 interns, and we were still interviewing right as COVID hit. So we thankfully pulled the plug before we got to the point where we were like, we're going to need to resend some offers. So we have 19, but we feel pretty good about it. We shipped all their laptops. They all just got them. We're shipping them like swag bags. They'll have like Grubhub gift certificates because we still want to do like lunch and learns with leadership, just virtual. So we're trying to give them all those same experience, just in a condensed format. So stay tuned.
Excellent. And Zac.
Yeah, so this is actually the second year we have done our internship. We started it last year. So usually it was a 8-week internship. And so we've reduced it to 4 weeks because we're going to go off, basically it's 1 to 2 interns per office. So we'll probably go off like the state regulations, because I know maybe states will be different about returning to work and just the policies and like what you have to do. So, but for this location, I presume that it's going to be, we're going to bring them on virtually. We have sent them their laptops. They'll get kind of training because we have Inside Global University. So we'll still, usually they would go to our headquarters down in Atlanta, but we are going to be kind of doing that remote, and they'll have a mentor. But we were originally going to have 50 interns, but it's very similar to Wynne. We kind of reduced that once COVID hit. So we have 27. So we'll be bringing those on in kind of in each one of our offices. So, but did I ask? Yeah, so I assume it will be virtual, but we're just kind of waiting until, you know, states and mayors kind of give us what their regulations are.
Okay, excellent. Okay, for this next question, I'm going to put you in the shoes of a career advisor to see what you would tell a student. So if there's there's a lot of juniors out there who didn't get that summer internship that they really wanted, and now they're going to be graduating this coming year. And so as they talk to recruiters, what would you tell them as far as, is that going to be a stigma or a negative thing that they didn't get that summer internship? And then also for the 2020 grads who are still in the job market, who are now competing perhaps with the 2021 grads, what advice would you give to that 2020 grad who's still in the job search? And again, I'm not going to go to all of you for this, but if you have thoughts, or just raise your hand and I'll call on you. What advice would you give students in both scenarios? Wynne.
Yeah, we actually talked to some of our full-time hires that can't start till January, and said like, hey, we know this is tough. Even though they do have a job, we still think it's important for them to keep their skills up. So I think some of the same advice goes. We've told them to really think about what technologies, since we're an IT firm, like what technologies they'd really like to learn, and to kind of study up on those, to, take advantage of online resources, do different technical challenges, and be able to articulate, kind of what they've learned from those experiences. I think that really shows employers that they've taken initiative. Sorry, it's not a baby crying, it's my crazy cat. They're really like taking initiative, and that they're learning lots of things. The other thing that sounds maybe kind of strange, but we encourage them to like wait tables or get a job in the hospitality industry, like Heidi. Yeah, I have one I can send your way. She's in Blacksburg still. Because those interpersonal skills and those soft skills are something that I think a lot of them might be lacking this whole spring and summer where they're just not around a lot of people. So to keep those skills sharp, be ready to talk to people and communicate and build rapport quickly. Those are all things that are really going to help them. And I think no one's going to blame them for not having an internship. It's just what they did with their time.
Right.
Heidi, did you?
No, I completely agree with her. I don't think it's going to hurt anybody. I mean, we're all in this together. We all know what everybody's going through. We'll bend over backwards to work with anybody who has a great attitude, right? All of the Virginia Tech kids, we've loved working with every single one of them every single time. They've never disappointed us. And just because they weren't able to have an internship doesn't mean that, they've all been great. We'd be happy to talk to any of them, whether they had an internship or not.
Mandy.
I agree with what they said. I would also encourage students to look at volunteer opportunities. I know that there are all kinds of things that they can get involved with. Some of it can be done virtually. So I think what I will look at is not so much if they couldn't have the internship, because to Heidi's and Wynne's points, I mean, we're all in this together. But what did you do with your time? Did you sit around and watch TV and catch up on all your Netflix binge watching? Or did you do something out there, whatever it was? Because there's a lot going on in the world. There's some social issues happening. There's COVID stuff, and people are hungry. So what are they doing with their time?
Excellent. Zac.
Yeah, and I think so for our role, we hire for our account management and our recruiter role where we aren't major specific. So you could have the best resume ever, and maybe not some things on your resume. But I think the biggest thing is I still need, candidates to speak to it, right? Like the whole kind of, building those relationships and kind of client interactions is big for us. So it's almost kind of really encouraging students to honestly talk about their experiences, not just professional, but also kind of what they went through and stuff like that. I think one of the biggest things is talking about initiatives, and I agree with what everyone is saying. But I really want to kind of get to know really the person. And sometimes even when I'm interviewing, I'm not even looking at the resume sometimes because I really want to hear it from you. I could put my name at the top of a resume and no one would know if it's me or not, right? Until you speak to it. So I think the interviewing skills that I love is when, we really kind of just get off what's on the page and we really kind of have that real conversation in an interview. And so I don't know if it's maybe I would encourage students to maybe kind of brush up on their interviewing skills, maybe ask some questions to employers, more things of really what they want, and then really kind of hone in on how am I going to get better in that industry. If it's, accounting focused, well, then how am I going to get that job? What should I be learning? And looking at job descriptions and requirements and stuff like that, how am I going to put my best foot forward? How am I going to be that first person they call for this job? That was kind of my thing.
Excellent. Chad.
Yeah, so our perspective, I guess my advice to 2021 grads would be consider co-op. Jim knows I'm a big proponent of co-op and I talk about it a lot, but this is an opportunity to, it's unique right now, but consider taking a semester off and do a fall co-op or a spring co-op. There's a lot of companies that offer those opportunities, and over the past 10 years, we've sort of seen a steady decline in students that want to, leave campus in the fall or spring. We find a lot of students that want to do traditional summer internships. But so my advice is consider fall or spring co-op. For us, that industry experience, no matter when you get it, is vital for full-time hires. My advice to 2020 grads is, gosh, I feel for you. Keep grinding, keep trying.
Excellent. Michaela.
So for our recent grad program, it includes those who are 9 months out from graduation up until 2 years after graduation. And so as recent graduates, it kind of levels the playing field for them. So they're only competing against other recent graduates. So I would suggest that, look for those student and recent graduate positions because those are the best positions for students to kind of get their foot in the door. I'd also suggest for students who have time to connect with student organizations that we partner with, such as the Society of American Foresters. We work with these organizations when we hire, and they provide us with lots of good candidates. And we're also working with these organizations for their virtual events coming up this year. So students who are connected with those types of organizations will likely get more face time with Forest Service employees, and they'll also have more access to the different services that we'll offer during those big hiring events. So we're pulling in lots of student and recent graduate candidates.
Excellent. David.
One of the things that we've been seeing with all of our team members, there just has been a tremendous number of professional development opportunities that have been popping up that people can participate in online, and a lot of them are free or no cost. And so I think that there's an opportunity to approach this time between graduating in 2020 and whenever you're getting a job to, like others have said, really focus on what you want to learn and how you want to grow. And, I think, employers, even if you're talking to people that might be hiring or might not be hiring right at the moment, to say like, I'm interested in this field, I want to pursue this kind of career area, where, what are the online conferences, the organization sources, like where can I be learning and kind of building my skills and getting familiarity. But yeah, being really intentional about what you want to learn, treat it like a gap year or a gap semester is a great way to approach, because that initiative, as others have said, is what we're always looking for, that, right? When we hire, I'm always looking to see somebody that is insatiably curious and doesn't wait around for somebody else to tell them what they should be learning. And, they're taking charge of their own continued growth.
Excellent. No, I really appreciate all that information, and that will be useful for both our career advisors to hear and also for our students and even parents to hear. So I think that's really great advice. Okay, shifting to a different question. So we are moving to a virtual platform. So if you previously had come to our office or come to Virginia Tech to a career fair, all of that's going to be presented to you in a virtual environment. More of that will follow as far as exactly how that will work. And I know many of you come to a variety of different career fairs, and many career fairs at Virginia Tech are handled by student groups and departments outside of our office. We do meet with all of those folks on a regular basis. And at this point, I haven't heard from everyone, but pretty much everyone is going to a virtual format. So with that, how do you see your fall recruiting changing? What are your internal discussions as far as how you plan to engage with students that's perhaps a little bit different than what you've done in years past? And we'll start with Michaela.
All right, so yeah, we are also planning for virtual engagements through the rest of this year and possibly through next summer. And so we've been told that, travel won't be an option. And so we're trying to figure out, just like you, which virtual engagements are working the best. How can we connect with the same number of students with the same quality virtually? And so that's what we're planning for.
Okay. David, any thoughts on
that? Yeah, I mean, like I said, we actually don't hire a lot of recent grads. We will occasionally, like I said, bring someone up through our internship program, but a lot of our hires, the nature of our work, we really need people that have had a few years of experience. So, we're going to be screening people on Zoom just like we always did. And the only difference now is that we won't be bringing people in for a in-person interview. More of that's going to happen, through this kind of process. But
okay, Heidi.
I don't know anything really changes for us. We work so closely with the HTM department. We'll probably just continue to work with them. Fall, we don't usually do a lot in the fall. For us, it's spring. In the fall, we kind of go light in the winter time. So destinations for us is huge. That job fair is huge. So if that ends up being virtual, that we'll have to put some thought into that.
Okay, Chad.
Yeah, I agree. We participate in the career fairs in person, and it's always been a huge part of how we recruit and talk with students. we've started virtual job fairs already, talking with students. We've proceeded with hiring for our fall co-ops online, just doing online interviews, and so far so good on that. That's actually going pretty well so far. Quite honestly, my early take on that is that the online applications and virtual career fairs and online interviewing process is pretty efficient. I'm pretty happy with it so far, and found it to be an efficient way to screen and evaluate candidates. You know, might have a different opinion a year from now, but you know, I think there's a lot of value in in-person interviewing. But so far, it's been positive and efficient for us.
Yeah, no, and actually, I'm going to back up because I really want to include in this question if you've been to a virtual job fair, if you've not been to a virtual job fair, and if you plan to be in a virtual job fair, and just kind of what your thoughts are. So I'm going to back up with Michaela and kind of see if you have any experience with virtual career fairs.
Yeah, so I've actually participated in a couple of virtual career fairs this year in different formats. And so there was a format where, you know, it was similar to this, where each employer was able to kind of tell a little bit of information about themselves, and then students could ask questions towards the end. And I participated in another fair where each employer had their own room that students could kind of enter and leave on a rotation basis. So it worked out okay. I feel like having a private kind of room that an employer can be in and connect virtually with students worked out better. I was able to have kind of direct one-on-one conversations with some of those folks, and they were able to follow up afterwards so we could kind of continue the conversation.
Do you know what platform you used for that?
They were on Zoom.
Okay. David, have you participated in any virtual events?
No, we haven't.
Okay. And Heidi, probably not. Okay. And Chad, did you said you had participated in virtual events, and they've worked well for you?
Yeah. The couple we participated in, the early one or two was students and the platforms sort of took some time to get up to speed with how everything worked, but the couple in the past couple of weeks have been more successful. People are getting used to it, how they work, and so yeah, it's been successful.
And what platform for virtual fair have you used?
Yeah, I can't remember. Handshake is sponsored a couple, and they've got a couple coming up. And the other platform that we used with Michigan State a couple weeks back, I can't actually remember the name of it right now. So.
Okay, no, that's fine. Sam?
I've not participated in any virtual career fairs. Being a small company, career fairs are really important for us as far as like branding, especially like when we're on a campus like, you know, Virginia Tech, where we don't have a huge presence there yet. Other campuses where we have a really established pipeline and history with students, and we have a lot of graduates working for us, that, you know, we're not so concerned about career fairs there. We actually tend to prioritize their career fairs lowest and prioritize the career fairs of the campuses that we're in new relationships with. So we're feeling a little nervous about how this is going to work. Michaela, what you were saying was really interesting. You know, on one hand, I like the idea of like a format like this where, you know, I would have the opportunity to introduce myself to all of the students, you know, that were on the call, introduce myself, introduce Sunrise, because that you don't really have the opportunity to do at a in-person career fair. The idea of a room, like students having to go in and out of rooms or put themselves in a queue, that makes me nervous just because we are one of the smaller, you know, companies, and a Virginia Tech student probably would not necessarily know or be interested in, you know, talking with us unless they knew a little bit about us. So I can see it. I can see the strategy different depending on the companies that are participating. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
So
No,
that's,
and it's something that we talk about internal, where it, you know, for the employers that are well branded on campus, it's a little bit easier to get the attention of the students. But for the employers that are less branded or very newly branded, I think students are going to get inundated with virtual events.
mm-hmm.
And so how do you get those employers who aren't physically able to come to campus, how can they get in front of the students that they want to get in front of?
Yeah.
And so those are the things that Donna and Lisa and myself talk about on how can we provide the services needed to all of you so you can be successful, because it's definitely a different than a year ago.
Yeah. So last year, so one of the campuses that we work with and have the longest standing relationship with is BYU out in Utah. And last year we did a virtual career or a virtual information session with them because I had just come back from maternity leave and just was not really comfortable with taking, 4 or 5 days to travel out there. And so it was kind of out of necessity, and it was actually really amazing. We still did everything in person. Like they were there. I was the only person that was virtual. And so I don't know if that's, something you could look at. So we still provided food. We still, rented a room. They were still there, and I could see them and they could see me, but I just wasn't there.
Mm-hmm.
And that actually stirred up quite a lot of interest. But I don't know, again, with the whole, COVID-19 restrictions, I don't know by the fall what those will look like. But that was something that worked unbelievably well for us, and we were very surprised.
Excellent. Mandy and Corbyn?
So we have not attended a virtual career fair. So Michaela, what you shared was invaluable to me. And for those of you, Chad, I think, and Michaela, who have done it, any advice you can give us is great. We are going to be working with our marketing team. We've also talked to our IT team, and so some of our plans, because Samantha, to your point, we're small. We're 160 employees. You guys have probably all heard of Ernst & Young and Deloitte and those firms. You've probably never heard of Keiter. And so we're competing for those types of that same level of talent. So we feel that video is going to be key. We're going to try to figure out how our employees can leverage their phones to send us videos. Corbyn put together a fantastic welcome video where we had, I think, 25 different people recorded a snippet to welcome the interns. She wrote a script for them. So we're thinking, can we do some more of that? Because we've really got to distinguish, we've got a brand at Virginia Tech, but it's not as strong as some of the larger firms because we're only in Richmond and we're small. We think that's an advantage, but trying to get that to the students, we're not the USDA, some of you probably have some of the similar things. So we're looking at how we can leverage our staff and videos. And this summer we have a little window, and it's a little bit slower because everybody's working virtually except for our tax department. So we want to try to get them doing some videos. We know we've got to work with marketing on some kind of social media campaign. But Jim, to your point, we don't want to inundate students. So how do we distinguish ourselves and not just be, oh my gosh, here's another link, I can't take it anymore. We want to leverage our interns because we have quite a few Virginia Tech interns. We're trying to figure out how we can leverage Team and Zoom. Samantha, thank you for sharing that hybrid virtual info session. We're trying to figure out how we're going to do some of those. We've got some of our folks who have already started doing with their phones a virtual office tour, because this might be the first year that students are not going to come to our building. So how can we showcase that? I'm thrilled to have your time, Jim and Donna and Lisa, because we figure you guys are going to be key to our success and how we can work with you all. So we don't have anything started. We also went in March where Corbyn and I looked at each other virtually and said, we're going to have to probably figure out how to do a virtual internship. And that's going awesomely. So we're already starting to figure out what the fall is going to look like and how we're going to make that change. And, instead of looking at it as a hurdle, I'm looking at it as an opportunity where we're going to probably be able to access students that we've never been able to access before. We're going to have people involved in recruiting who didn't want to travel, and so they can somehow be involved. And so how can we match those people up and get them out there? So if anybody else has experience with the virtual career fairs, please share, because I'm all about being a sponge today and learning.
Yeah, and one thing that we're going to do probably starting in a few weeks, is just having a standing weekly meeting. For example, every Wednesday at 3 o'clock, to have a meeting like this where if you wanted to sign into it, to ask us questions where we can learn from you, because as you all have said, we're all in this together and we're all learning together. And I think we can share with each other what's working and what's not working. But I do think there's value of just having a standing meeting to where if you wanted to sign in, ask questions or hear discussion, we really think that would be of value to do, because each area is going to have a virtual fair, but then I think a lot of organizations are going to have their own virtual fairs, and so we're going to have to kind of work together to see how that works. But we do plan to have a standing meeting where we can all come together as you need to and just discuss these types of things. Corbyn, did you have your hand up?
I did. Before Mandy and I hop off, there was something else that I had thought of, and it's somewhat related to how we make our brand on campus, but we have been thankful. Professor Ulliman is one of the accounting professors, and he even allowed us, when students were still in classes, to do a virtual information session presentation. And that has been another way that we have built our brand on campus. And so we will likely in the fall still try and get into some of his classes virtually and do that, as well as Beta Alpha Psi has been really helpful. So we will hopefully try and reach students that way as well. And we had done that over Zoom. So that's kind of another part of our strategy for this fall is, aside from the career fair, hoping to still get into classrooms and meet students virtually in that way. So I want to say that Mandy and I have to hop off at 11 because we have a meeting, but before we hopped off, that was something else we're thinking through.
Perfect. Thank you for that.
Yeah.
Wynne.
Yeah, and to piggyback on what Corbyn said, I think some of these other virtual events are really beneficial. And I think that we're going to probably try to do more of that than maybe virtual career fairs. I've only done one virtual career fair, and it was many, many years ago, and it was a giant cluster, and it was just crazy. But when Michaela talked about like the different rooms and people could come in, I was like, oh, well, that makes a lot more sense. Like that I could kind of wrap my head around. But I don't love the virtual career fair idea, but I don't know a lot about it. But we also don't expect to be really doing much hiring in the fall. We think we're going to still be in kind of recovery mode. We do plan to hire interns, and so we'll probably focus our fall recruiting on just interns and hopefully convert all of our interns that are starting next week to full-time. So if we make 19 offers and they all accept, we've got those 19. We've already got 54 that we've had to push back probably till January and February. So we're kind of like, we don't really think we're going to need a lot of full-time people, but the economy's sake, it's awesome and we're good to go. Then in the spring, we'll look at kind of shifting and then maybe doing more of our heavy full-time recruiting in the spring, which is not our normal cycle. So, yeah.
So do many of you see the fall recruiting sliding a little bit? Previous years, everything has been very early in September, early October, as far as fall recruiting. Do you see that sliding a little bit further for the reasons that you just said, Sam?
So the space that we're in is cloud-hosted ERP software, and we actually are expecting this whole pandemic to launch our business forward, because what we do is we take organizations or companies that have like on-premise ERP software, so it's like hosted on a server, like in one of their warehouses or distribution centers, and then we transition it into a cloud-based platform. And so everybody that's been working remotely now understands the value of having your systems be cloud-based versus on-premise. And so we actually are already seeing, we're getting a lot more clients already, and we're hiring where we thought we probably weren't going to hire until January 2021, even for just senior level positions. And we're seeing that across all Microsoft partners that do what we do. And so for any of you, I'm not sure what everybody does that's in consulting, but we're already seeing a shift for companies that do have some disposable income, they are wanting to beef up their systems so that they're ready to continue business as usual. So I actually predict that we're going to hire more in the fall than we have in previous years. It's mind-blowing because we're going to have to do it in a completely different way. But with that said, making sure that students have good virtual etiquette is going to be paramount, because there's not that, I mean, you do lose an element of the nonverbal communication, even on Zoom. So I think it's actually going to be a lot more.
And Zac, experiences with virtual fairs or anticipation of attending a virtual fair?
Yeah, so I haven't attended a virtual career fair, but I plan on getting involved, obviously, in the fall into anything. I kind of want to be more involved now that travel's kind of eliminated. So, I mean, I'm obviously down at Virginia Tech 4 or 5 times a semester, but I do plan on starting first week of September. I know Sam just mentioned that the career fair or the Business Horizons is going to be virtual September 10th. But so one of my questions actually is for Business Horizons. I'm assuming that a platform can't hold the amount of employers that an in-person would. So my thought process was, have we thought about maybe dividing up the business program? So like accounting majors could attend this one, business management majors could attend this one. Have we thought about that aspect? Because that would be huge, because I know at Business Horizons, obviously we're not major specific, but we do hire people for our account management role. And they tend to fall into kind of the business management versus, accounting, for example. So I would love to kind of get more exposure to a specific major and maybe do it a little bit differently. But I expect my whole recruiting strategy to be a little bit different, and I've got to get a little bit more creative.
Yeah, and we're using a platform, and so is Pamplin, called Brazen, and it's certainly going to be different because on the Brazen platform, they really can only accommodate about 50 employers at any one time. So it's going to have to be divided out in some way and kind of staggered. So again, I'm sure there's going to be more information that will be delivered on how they're going to do that. But it's not going to be, 150 employers at one time at a virtual event. So it will be staggered and separated in some way. All right, excellent. Well, just one last question, and I really appreciate your information. But as you look at changing what you're doing currently, do you see these as long-term changes within your organization? Or as soon as it's safe, do you see yourself back on campus as you were before, or a hybrid of both? But I think we're all learning virtual work. And so do you see this as long-time structural changes in how you recruit? Michaela.
Yeah, I definitely feel like, we'll use virtual engagements more going into the future. As I mentioned before, there are just 2 of us recruiting for the entire southern region. So I have 6 states to cover. So being able to engage with students virtually would help me to just reach a lot more students than I would if I had to depend on physically traveling to different locations.
Okay. And David had to drop off. Heidi?
Because we're an in-person kind of place, we can't do anything virtually. The only thing that may change is, the initial interviews may be done via Zoom. A lot of initial ones would happen on the phone anyway, so maybe that goes to Zoom, but we're just an in-person kind of place. So we're, doing our distancing and wearing our masks and our gloves, and, that doesn't really change for us.
Okay. Chad, and specifically about recruiting, do you see some of the virtual recruiting efforts that you may be undertaking, would that become, do you think, standard, or do you think you'll kind of revert back as soon as possible to more in-person, or a combination of both?
Yeah, I think in-person interviewing is always going to be important for us as an evaluation tool. But as far as will what we're starting to do now with recruiting be a long-term thing, I think, in my opinion, absolutely yes. I think all of this is totally game-changing.
Okay, I think Chad is frozen. Okay, we will wait for Chad to unfreeze and go to Sam.
Right. So we will want to go back to in-person interviewing as soon as possible. We are all itching to get back in the office, and our consultants are doing an amazing job doing their job 100% remote, but part of building that rapport and those interpersonal relationships is being together and being face-to-face. And so, you know, we're doing the best we can remotely, but especially with interviews, I mean, we will absolutely want to do face-to-face in person pretty much as soon as we're able. We'll probably be one of those early adopters as soon as it's safe. But I do think that virtual interviews will be important, and maybe that's something that we'll do like first round, is do first round virtual and do final face-to-face. We usually do 2 face-to-face, first round and second round.
Okay. Wynne?
Yeah, we haven't quite figured all that out yet. I do see a combination coming into play. We have been experimenting with a few like WebEx training and figuring out like some different platforms that would be really good for interviewing. Like in the past, we've used WebEx, but if we wanted to do all of the interviews virtually, then we might have like a case interview, and what's the best way to do that? So that's been a little bit trickier. I do think we could definitely do 1 or 2 of our interviews virtually. We just need to figure out if we would do them all that way. I think for any like candidates that would be needing to travel for interviews, then I think we would be much more accommodating to virtual versus in the past we've, flown them in or had them drive up. That I could see us doing less and less of. But if it's a local candidate, I think we probably still want to get them into the office at some point.
Okay. And Zac?
Yeah, I kind of view it as like an option, like another tool in the tool belt, if you will, because for us, we're very similar. Like I want to get back to in-person interviews as soon as possible. That's just kind of my, I guess, take on it. And then since we kind of did put a hold on hiring, I want to see like the feedback from our interviewees and our interviewers at the same time of just like how much they're actually gaining, because, obviously we gain a ton in kind of the in-person and when you actually get to meet somebody face to face. And so if that's slipping, and then I would like to cancel out. So I almost want to kind of go into the fall with a very open mind, and we have given thought about changing our interview process slightly. And if it is good, then I assume we'll do something maybe that incorporates both, just because, a lot of our Virginia Tech students that we hire do go to like our Richmond location, our DC location, our Norfolk location, which is, a bit of a hike. So, I'm open to doing both, but I would love to kind of get back as soon as possible.
Excellent. Well, I'm going to end the meeting there, but I really appreciate your comments and your feedback. I do want to kind of keep this conversation going because it is a very fluid situation, and I think there's a lot of value of learning from each other. So I will be in touch shortly with more information as far as what we're doing as an office. And then also to set up some just regularly scheduled meetings where if you want to sign in, you can. It's not a requirement, but if you just want to sign in to hear a discussion or ask questions, certainly we want to make that available to you. But again, really appreciate the comments and the feedback. And as you further think about your fall planning, please reach out to us because we're also trying to figure out how we best can service you as well. So again, thank you very much. And I hope y'all have a really nice day. Any questions from y'all at this point?
No, I just wanted to say thank you for having me, by the way.
Yeah, thanks so much. This is really helpful.
Excellent.
Thanks, Jim.
All right. Thank you all very much. Y'all be safe.
See your faces.
Okay. Bye.